On today's show, we're sharing 6 ways to get your website converting better. And I'll tell you, the second one is an easy fix, but so many people aren't doing it. And the sixth one we're going to share today is something that I see seasoned business owners doing, but not new entrepreneurs because they think they can't, but you can. And we'll explain what that is when we get to it. All right, let's jump into the show.
There's no wrong way to be an entrepreneur, and that's the dirty little secret the business gurus don't want you to know. They want you to do things their way, but their way may not be your way. The key to success is finding the strategies that work best for you. Welcome to the 6 Ways with Jerry Potter.
Welcome to episode 21 of the 6 Ways. Every week we bring on a smart, innovative guest that is thriving in their field of expertise to share some of their best tips with us so that we can all achieve our entrepreneurial goals, because I believe we all do better when we all do better. By the way, this is both an audio and a video podcast, so if you are watching and you want to switch to audio or vice versa, you can always find a link to both of them in the show notes. And I know your time is valuable, so you'll see timestamps there as well. So if you want to revisit something or jump ahead to something, you can find those in the section below or wherever you're watching on whatever device you're watching on. My name is Jerry Potter, by the way. I'm the founder of 5-Minute Social Media and Social Media Leads Lab. My guest today is Moira Hanna. She is a StoryBrand certified guide, and StoryBrand is some of the best creators of messaging in the world. She also now uses that to help course creators go from idea to implementation, and including the messaging that is so important when it comes to courses. Moira, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jerry.
So I have to be honest, I got a little nervous because as we were about to come on, I was like, oh gosh, should I have revamped my website before we came on here? Because I got to be honest, of even the 3 that I'm going to share, I'm like, does my website currently have these 3? Because I didn't look, but I suppose I have time before we actually release the episode. But
so you can always go and take a look after we're done.
Yes. Although I think all of us are hypocritical in our businesses sometimes, where we tell our clients, no, I don't do this, but you need to do this. Right? Okay. I'm not the only one. So your website, of course, can have millions of visitors and 0 sales unless it's set up properly to convert. And so we're going to be sharing 6 ways to get your website to convert better. Maura brought 3. I brought 3. Also, our question of the week from Lila: do businesses still need a website, a full website, or are landing pages and social media enough? So we will answer that question today as well. All right. Let's jump in. 6 ways to get your website converting better. Number 1, Maura, what do you got?
You know what? The very first thing that you come to when you click off of your search engine to a website is a headline. So I want you to have a very clear headline, one that does not make the reader think. I don't want them to have to engage brain cells.
Yeah.
I just want them to know what it means right away. And you have about 10 seconds to hook someone. Otherwise, they hit that back button. And if they hit the back button, you have just lost out on that potential sale.
Yeah, in a big way. So can you give, do you have an example or two of clear versus unclear, even if you're just making them up and they're not perfect?
Okay. So I was going through websites not too long ago, and one of them said that in the headline, this was for mature women.
Okay.
And I didn't quite know what mature meant. Did it mean a certain age? Did it mean a certain way of thinking? And it just made me go, well, I don't know if this is for me. And so I hit the back button.
Okay.
And I went and looked for something else. So when I'm looking at a website that's clear, it says, get your messaging fixed, or learn how to crochet in 5 days. I want to know what this website's about. I want to know if it's for a beginner, if it's for an expert. Who is it for? Because if I don't know that, I'm out.
Yeah. It's such a good point. And we I think as business owners, and especially if you're in the creative space, you're kind of like, oh, I'm going to make this thing that rhymes, or I'm going to make this, thing with emojis in my headline, or different things like that. And it gets really, really dangerous. I've been telling people when I coach them to, we're working with some people right now on writing video scripts for TikTok and Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels. And I'm like, you have to write at a 3rd grade level. And one of them said, well, my audience isn't 3rd graders. They're smarter than that. And I'm like, look, they're scrolling through videos on their phone. Now is not the time to make them think. You want them to understand really quickly so that they want more from you. Because if you start getting into anything, and I'm going to call out my friends in the mortgage and real estate industry because they're sometimes the worst at this, where they're like,
Oh,
they're making a video for somebody who doesn't know who they are or whatever, and they start talking about the APR and the this and that, and you're like, I don't what no, that's too many acronyms in a short period of time.
mhm.
So love that you said that. All right, next up,
Oh,
number
wait,
two.
wait, 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 wait.
Oh, okay.
One other thing about that. ChatGPT, if you go in there and you ask for a headline, please don't just believe what it says because it's going to try and give you something that's complicated and clever. So,
Is that
just
what
a
you found?
caution.
ChatGPT gets too clever?
It does. It
Okay.
gets wordy and just it takes the simplicity out of it. Trust
Interesting.
yourself to
Interesting.
write something simple.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Next up, number 2 of 6 ways to get your website converting better. You need to, speaking of clear, have a very clear next step that you want them to take, a very clear call to action. I have been to so many websites and it's like, wow, this looks really neat and looks like they solved the problem that I have and things like that. And there is literally no way to figure out how to work with this person. And maybe, as a business owner, sometimes we're like, oh, well, you just scroll down to the bottom and then you click contact and then you go there and then you send me a message and guess what you want, tell me whatever you want. And then we'll get on a call and da, 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 da. And it's so important that, again, we all have all this information at the speed of light now. And so, as you said, nope, back button, bye-bye. And so what is that first step that you want them to take? Make it as clear as possible so that they can do that quickly. Because when somebody does land there and they are ready to go, you want to make sure that they, know how to go. And I think I got this actually from Donald Miller, who wrote Building the Story Brand. He describes it as not even just at that first step, but even showing them what the next few steps will be. And he describes it as you're standing on the edge of like a rushing river, and the thing you want's on the other side. Well, put some stones in the river so they can easily get across the river and know exactly what it's going to be. So it's like, hey, if you want to solve this problem, step 1, fill out the form. Step 2, we'll contact you. Step 3, we'll send you your custom package or whatever it might be. So I've always really,
Yes.
really loved that. And it's funny how simplicity is so much a part of all of this.
And you brought up a great point there. You said step 1, 2, 3. When I talk with folks, they're thinking, but my process is more than 3 steps. We're just going to pick the first step somewhere along the way where they're working, and the third step is that success. And so don't overcomplicate this. They don't need the people that are coming to your website don't need the whole picture right now. That's going to be overwhelming. When you create that overwhelm, they leave. They're trying to come to you to solve that overwhelm. Don't put them
Yes.
right back into it.
Yeah. And as you said, the steps can be, almost anything. You want the first
Mhm.
step to be what they should do first and the last step to be their success. But in some cases, it's 3 steps to place your order. In other cases, it's 3 steps to completely solve your problem. But it's just about letting them see where they're going, because nobody wants to go down like otherwise it's like going through a dark cave. And that's
Nice.
not what people are looking for. So,
Mhm.
all right. Next up, number 3, 6 ways to get your website converting better. Maura, what do you got?
Okay, this one's kind of strange and not something that we usually talk about, but make sure that the pictures you're putting on your website actually apply to your business.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. I was on a coach website. It was not about health coaching or anything, it was a different kind of coach, and they had cupcakes as a picture. They
Okay.
were lovely designer cupcakes,
Of course.
but they're not in the baking industry in any way, shape, or form. And so it just creates that bit of confusion. Well, am I actually on a baking website? Am I here to get coaching on how to cook cupcakes? What is it? And so when you're choosing your imagery that goes on your website, remember we read, but we also look at those pictures. We read very little
Yeah.
in reality.
Yeah.
We look at the pictures though, and if they're not in alignment with what it is you're talking about, we create confusion. And one of the things Donald Miller says is when you confuse, you lose.
I love a good rhyming slogan. Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because actually the sixth one that I'm going to give actually ties to pictures as well. So we'll get into
Okay.
that here in just a second. Next up, number 4 of 6 ways to get your website converting better. Real quick though, this episode is brought to you by dailysocialmediatips.com. You can join thousands of entrepreneurs and sign up in just seconds and get my daily social media marketing tips sent straight to your inbox, along with some stories and inspiration to help you grow your business faster. And of course, if they're ever unhelpful, you can always quickly unsubscribe at the bottom of any email. You can sign up right now at dailysocialmediatips.com. All right. So, number 4, 6 ways to get your website to convert better is you need to have a section on your homepage about what happens when they don't buy from you, they don't hire from you, they don't work from you. So what we see a lot of emphasis on is telling people, hey, here's what can happen and you can get this and we'll send you this beautiful box, or you'll have this amazing transformation, or whatever it might be. But until people have something at stake, they're not willing to move forward and take action. And so you have to kind of frame both sides of it. So you go, hey, if you do take action, here's what happens. And if you don't take action, then you can continue to stay stuck exactly where you are, or things could possibly get worse. And this applies to all businesses. And so, for me on my website, it says something like, not having a great social media strategy is already costing you time and money. And then it kind of goes through and talks about the amount of time it takes to Google figuring things out on social media and different things like that. And so it's so important, I think, to have that failure avoidance section, especially because, and I know, Maura, you're a psychology geek like me, especially because we know people will invest more to avoid pain than they will ever invest in gaining pleasure. And so that's why
Yes.
this is so, so effective.
And you can even break that down further if you're having a hard time figuring out, well, I don't want to be too aggressive in talking about failure. You can think about what are they going to be thinking, doing, and feeling 3 or 6 months from now if they haven't said yes to your offer. And sometimes, like you said, Jerry, things just haven't changed, which means they are still stuck in that cycle of, in your case, trying to figure out social media. They're posting and nothing's happening.
Yep.
Or maybe they're getting even more disheartened. So you don't have to say, oh my gosh, the sky is falling and the world is going
Right.
to end because you haven't bought my thing.
Yeah.
But you can say, that feeling when you wake up in the morning is still going to be there.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. And yeah, nobody
Mm.
should run out and say, hey, buy this product or die. Those are your
No.
options. You really but you can really paint exactly what that is. And as you pointed out, it's not just about things, getting worse. It's just like, you're just going to stay stuck exactly where you are, which is great. So, all right. Next up, number 5, 6 ways to get your website converting better. Maura?
So let's flip the script on what you just said. And I would love to see a value proposition on that homepage somewhere. A lot of times we spend so much time talking about ourselves as the business owner on that homepage that
Mm,
we forget to talk about what our clients are actually going to experience from our products or services. And the trick here is to keep it simple. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but don't write full blown paragraphs when a bullet point is going to do. So have that bullet point of, what is the value of working with you? What success are they going to experience? Which means thinking, doing, and feeling. How are they going to feel? Are they going to shed kind of that stuff we just talked about with that failure kind of section? Are they going to feel empowered? Are they going to feel excited to get out of bed? Are they going to finally, fill in the blank here? We want to talk about how they're feeling, but also how they're thinking and what they're actually doing inside their business or doing inside their life if you're not necessarily working with business owners. Just make sure you share the value of what you do. You know it intrinsically because
mm.
you see it all the time.
Yeah. And it's so important. And I especially loved what you said about keeping it simple, shorter sentences, bullet points, things like that. I remember when websites first kind of became a thing, it was kind of like, let's fill it up with as much stuff as possible. And then of course, blogging and SEO, search engine optimization, came along, and it was like, okay, let's stuff it with keywords. And you can see these websites that have been built that were built by an agency 5 to 10 years ago with all of this strategy, but to a consumer, they're just awful.
Mhm.
And another conversation for another day is where, what's going to happen with SEO now that we have, AI to ask questions to. But yeah, keeping it simple is so, so important. The one interesting thing I got once, I was talking to somebody that was a copywriting coach, and they said, when it comes to websites and sales pages, the only reason to put a bunch of text on there is to get them to make sure to read the big headlines. So
Yes.
basically, like they'll go, I'm not reading that, so I'll make sure to read this big headline to get an idea of what it is. And I don't know anybody that's actively using that, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense, right? If there's too much text, they're just going to read the biggest stuff, and if that's the most important stuff, then perhaps that can be effective there. So, all right, number six ways to get your website converting better. This is something that I see seasoned business owners doing. New business owners often don't because they feel like they can't, but they should. And that is to have social proof on your website. And so, did I just hear you gasp?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So social proof is essentially showing that other people like your business. Other people think your business is great. And I can't tell you how many websites I come across where I can't tell if you have ever had a client or a customer or anything like that. And if your website gives people an uneasy feeling, especially in the day and age of clicking on dangerous links and stuff like that, they're gone and they'll never be back. And so I know, though, what I want to add here, a couple of tips, and this can be for seasoned business owners, but especially for new business owners. Maybe you don't have testimonials yet. Maybe you don't have great videos and case studies and all of that kind of stuff yet. And that's totally, totally fine. So a few things that you can do if you don't have that yet. One, just write in a way that seeds that you have clients. And so sometimes it's just as simple as saying, hey, to solve this problem, you need this, and changing it to saying, to solve this problem, I tell my clients to do this. And that little subtle thing alone to somebody that's skimming your website can make a massive, massive difference. Number two, put up photos of you with other people. So, you were mentioning earlier, no cupcake photos. I was speaking a number of years ago to a conference of charity auctioneers. So these are the auctioneers that specifically raise money for nonprofits. They do an amazing job. And beforehand, I was looking at their social media and their websites, and all of these auctioneers were standing at these beautiful events, people in costumes and stuff like that. And they were standing in the corner taking a photo. It was, with a photo of themselves, maybe a selfie, maybe somebody else took it, but all alone. And I was like, nobody wants to hire the auctioneer that's standing in the corner there. And so when you take a good photo with somebody, as long as the person looks happy to be with you, it's basically a ringing endorsement for you. Oh, other people like them. And so that's a neat little thing that you can do with social proof. And then the last thing, and I didn't have this in my notes, but I see this a lot. I've been looking at a lot of AI software tools, and they use this a lot, is just use numbers. So earlier in this episode, I talked about my dailysocialmediatips.com, and I didn't say, hey, sign up, get daily social media tips, okay? I said, join thousands of entrepreneurs who get my daily social media tips. And so that social proof is built in. And so you can do that with downloads, views, all kinds of different things. So just think about what numbers you might be able to share to weave in that social proof. And do you have any other social proof ideas that you kind of help people weave in?
I think I loved your idea about pictures. And I know a lot of times we tend to, and taking pictures with other people, we tend to shy away from that. I was at a mastermind not too long ago, and there were several people in the room that literally went around to every single attendee and said, let's grab a picture.
Yeah.
And everyone was smiling. We were having a great time, and we were talking business, and they used those pictures for everything. So I want you to be really creative. It doesn't necessarily have to be a client that you're taking a picture with.
Yes.
And if you're online, like we are right now, saying, hey, can I grab a screenshot before we go today? Grabbing those opportunities when they arise. Don't get so picky about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And don't be afraid to ask for some kind words about what it is you're doing. 9 times out of 10, even your followers will share something that they've enjoyed. Maybe it was a post that they liked. If you saw them comment, say, hey, could I screenshot this comment and share it with my audience?
Yes. Yeah. So good. And yeah, I'm glad that you emphasize it doesn't have to be a client that you took a photo with. If they look like they're happy to be there, great. Now, if they don't look like they're happy to be with you, Like we have all probably been on both sides of these pictures. Like there's sometimes where I feel like I'll be in an event, we're getting along, and I'll say, hey, can we take a picture or whatever? And we take a picture and it's like, yeah. And then I look at the photo and the body language looks like this person does not want to be standing there with me. Or maybe they just take photos that way all the time. But that has the negative effect because now you're putting up a photo of somebody who looks like that doesn't make you look like a good, trustworthy person. So keep that in mind. All right. We're going to recap all 6 ways here in just a second, and I'm going to make Maura choose her favorite. But first, our question of the week from Lila. Do businesses still need a full website, or are landing pages and social media enough? So here we are in 2023. What would you say to that, Maura?
I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. Social media is not enough. You do not own it.
Okay.
It is rented property. Social media is not enough. The powers that be at whatever social media platforms you choose to use can turn you off anytime, any day, any moment, and you have just lost all of that work you've put in. Which means, now I'm not saying you shouldn't have social media because it's a great way to build audience and trust and authority and get your ideas out there, test your messaging, all of those things. But you need to have somewhere to send them to get to know you on a deeper level. And so, yes, I actually like having a full-blown website, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I tell a lot of new entrepreneurs a homepage, a services page, and an about me page. You're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes if you have too much, they go down a rabbit hole. Eventually they click a link in a blog post that goes somewhere else and they don't even remember who you are anymore. And so, I love the way that you put that. And I completely agree. There should be something there because you need your own property, if you will, where you're going to build your business. And a lot of the times, if you're not creating a weekly podcast or YouTube video or whatever, blog, you're not creating that content. That's okay. You can still have a place that people can go because as we talk about in my Social Media Leads Lab program, people go through that buyer journey. We call it the date framework. They go from discovering you to becoming an acquaintance to talking to you to being enchanted. And the website is such a key piece for somebody who's entering that talking phase. They're learning more about you. And that's the thing that gets them enchanted. And then if they take that step, then, that leads to them becoming the buyer, the client, the customer. So I love the way that you said that. So you said you wanted to separate the question though. So do you feel like landing pages and sales pages can replace a regular website?
No, I don't. But I do think you can have landing pages that are very scaled down. For instance, when I have a lead generator, a PDF, a video, a workshop, something that I want people to sign up and end up on my email list, I have scaled back landing pages that just have 3 or 4 bullet points. Here's what you're going to get. Sign up below, right? And they can't click off of that anywhere. There's no homepage link. I put my privacy and terms on that page, of course, so they can link to that. But otherwise, it kind of does stand alone. And I like those for that purpose because if you want someone on your email list and you give them all of these ways to click somewhere else, they're going to get distracted.
Yep. Bye-bye.
So I kind of think you need both.
Yeah.
You need landing pages, you need a website, and all 3. You need 3 things. You need social media.
And we are not entering an age, where websites are going away. Okay.
No.
I agree. And you made some really good reasons for that. So, all right, 6 ways to get your website converting better. Quick recap here. Number 1, create a clear headline. Whatever the main words somebody sees when they come to your website need to be clear, not clever. They have to immediately understand what it is without having to use brain power, as Maura shared it. Number 2, make it very clear what they should do next. A very clear call to action. Don't make them dig down to your contact page and reach out to you to figure out how to work with you. Number 3, choose images that clearly demonstrate your business. If you don't bake cupcakes, you shouldn't have any cupcakes on the page. I love that story. Number 4, have a section about failure avoidance. So lots of people do stuff about, what it's like to work with you and what can happen, but you also want to have something that lays out the stakes for what happens if they don't solve this problem that you solve. Number 5, a clear value proposition, bullet points, keeping it very simple about, this dream outcome that they can achieve with you. And then number 6, social proof doesn't just mean testimonials. We shared lots of different ways that you can incorporate that into your website to, so that when somebody lands there, they don't go, is this a real business? Because any hacker, any scammer can put up a website now in about 10 minutes. And so that's why we need all of that. So if you want to take a deeper dive into any of those or revisit, you can go to the6ways.com/21 for episode 21. And what was your favorite, or which one do you think, if people took one away and did something with it, what would it be? And you don't have to pick one of mine. You can pick your own.
Oh, man. Okay, so if I were to pick something, I would say next steps. I am a huge fan of having a clear next step, and to add on to that, making sure the button is clear that you should click. So don't
Mm.
just say, let's get started. Say, schedule a call, get the PDF, make it as clear as possible.
Yes. Okay. That's an important one. This is tough because everyone should have all of these for sure. But I'm going to go back to the first one you shared. Have a clear headline, not a clever one. They should be able to get there and within 10 seconds go, oh, this is where I want to be. And every time they click back to Google, I mean, if you were lucky enough to get found in Google and be one of the first or two pages, every time they click back, that's basically going to move you down in the ranking every single time. So make sure that is incredibly, incredibly clear. And if you want a way to test your headlines, just when you're walking or when you're around people, like in person, they say, hey, what do you do? Use that verbiage. I once did this at a conference of entrepreneurs. And when I sat down at a table and said the latest one I was testing out, and all 6 people said, do you have a business card? I went, oh, okay, here we are. This is it. I finally got here. So it can make a massive, massive difference. All right. By the way, real quick, word of mouth is the number one way that that new people discover this show and get help with their businesses. So if you found this valuable, please tell someone else about it that would benefit as well, because we all do better when we all do better. If you enjoyed this episode, a couple others that you might like. Actually, let me come back to that here in just a second. Got ahead of myself. We'll edit that part later. If you want to learn more about Moira, definitely check out the Entrepreneur. If you want to learn more about Moira, definitely check out the Entrepreneur Mindset podcast. Episode 142 is the one that you wanted to send people to. Tell us about what's in this episode, Moira.
So this one really just talks a little bit more about StoryBrand, gets you into your messaging in more depth, how to use StoryBrand within your business, because it's not just the website. And so you get to dig in just a little bit more.
Okay, very nice. So we'll link to that, of course, in the show notes or
Perfect.
description wherever you are consuming this. And if you enjoyed this episode, check out episode 7, 6 ways to use LinkedIn to become a thought leader, and episode 17, 6 ways to keep your clients paying longer. Really, really great conversation in that episode. Links in the episode notes wherever you are watching or listening. Remember, we all do better when we all do better. So keep helping each other out and let us know how it goes. And Moira, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jerry.